I want you to picture something for me. Just imagine you are sitting in front of a computer screen, but you're not looking at a website or a game. You're looking at the raw code.
Just the source code itself.
Right, exactly. Just this endless waterfall of zeros and ones sort of cascading down the monitor. And to the average person, to you or me, it just looks like noise. Or, I mean, maybe it looks like a count of something.
On quantity.
Yeah, quantity, like how many pixels are on the screen or how many lines of text. We just see amounts.
But to a programmer, those numbers aren't counting anything at all. They are instructions. They're the actual syntax of reality for that system. A 0 isn't just nothing, and a 1 isn't just a single thing.
They're switches.
They are switches, precisely. They are the structural DNA of the entire world you see on that screen.
Right. They define the physics of it. They tell the digital gravity how hard to pull, or they tell the digital light how to bounce. Now, I want you to take that image, that whole idea of the digital matrix, and apply it to something, well, something ancient.
We are talking about the Quran.
We are. And specifically, we are taking a deep dive into a theory that is, it's going to sound like it was ripped right out of a sci-fi novel, but it's actually based on a very rigorous, almost engineering-like analysis of the text.
It's the work of Khaled Waleed. And he calls this system the Quranic numerical matrix, or sometimes he refers to it as covenant mathematics.
Covenant mathematics. Which, I mean, it sounds incredibly cool, I'll give it that, but it's a massive claim, isn't it? The core idea here is that the numbers in the book, like when it says 7 heavens or 40 nights, they are just telling you how many heavens or how many nights.
No, they're not. They are telling you the nature of those heavens. That is the core premise, yes. Waleed suggests that for centuries we have been reading these numbers as basic arithmetic, just simple counting tools. I have 5 apples, you have 3 oranges. But he posits that this is a very surface-level reading. He argues that the numbers are actually structural frequencies.
Structural frequencies. So we're moving away from arithmetic and into, what did you call it, geometry?
Geometry, architecture, and code. Honestly, Waleed frames this as a totally new opening of knowledge. He believes that we need to shift from an analog understanding of the text to a digital one.
The digital one.
Right. He suggests that each number, from 1 to 9, functions almost like a unique element in a periodic table. Each one has a specific geometric meaning that describes why a thing exists, not just that it exists.
Okay, so if I see the number 4 in a verse somewhere, Waleed is saying I shouldn't just think, 4 items. I should think about the quality of 4-ness.
Precisely. You should be looking for the specific attributes that the number 4 carries in his matrix. Things like stability, or location, or balance. It fundamentally changes the number from a quantity into an adjective.
Okay, that is a fascinating hook, and that is exactly our mission today. We're going to try and crack this code. We're going to walk through Khaled Waleed's dictionary of numbers.
We'll go digit by digit.
Right, 1 through 9, just to see what he claims are the fundamental building blocks of this entire matrix.
And once we have that vocabulary down, the basic definitions, we are going to look at the compounds, the much bigger numbers. And then, the really fun part, we're going to see how he applies this numerical symbology to decode specific historical and cosmic events.
Because he treats the verses like equations, basically.
He really does.
Before we jump into the matrix, though, we do need to set some ground rules for you listening. We are looking at a very specific body of work here. The thought of Khaled and the pen of Waleed. We are your guides to his theory today.
Right. We want to be clear about that. We aren't theologians and we aren't mathematicians. We are just impartial observers here. We are taking the blueprints that Waleed has drawn up, and we're going to walk through the building to see if the structure actually holds up.
We aren't here to endorse a religious viewpoint or to try and convert anyone. We are strictly here to ask, if we accept Waleed's premises, does the system work?
It's a logic check.
Exactly. We're debugging the theory. So let's start at the very beginning. The root directory, if you will. The number 1.
Section 1. The foundation. Identity and structure. And Waleed begins right there with number 1.
Now, obviously, in any monotheistic text, the number 1 is going to be a huge deal. It's God, right? The one.
It is, but Waleed gets a little more technical than just saying God. He defines one as uniqueness, the source, and the frequency of the beginning.
The frequency of the beginning. What does that mean in a practical sense?
Think about it in terms of systems. Wall argues that every system, no matter how massively complex it gets, must start with a singularity, a single point of origin. He references Surah An-Nisa, verse 1.
Okay, what does that verse say?
It says, created you from a single soul. The Arabic term there is nafs wahida.
Nafs wahida, one soul.
And Waleed points out a very obvious but often entirely overlooked detail about this. It is verse 1.
Oh, I see.
He argues this isn't just a coincidence of pagination or formatting.
Right.
The number 1 serves as the initiator. Yes, it represents the creator, the absolute one, but it also literally represents the initial spark of the file.
It's the cursor blinking on the blank screen.
That's a great analogy, yes. Before you can have a conversation, before you can compile a program, you need that first pulse. That is 1. It signifies absolute exclusivity. If a verse has the frequency of 1 in Waleed's matrix, it is talking about something that has no parallel. It is the source code.
But here's the problem I see with just having a 1. If I'm just a single point in the void, nothing is actually happening. I'm just there. It's completely static. To have a story or a universe, or even just this deep dive we're doing, you need something else.
You need a second. And this brings us right to number 2, the law of duality.
Duality. Now, this is a concept that shows up absolutely everywhere. Yin and yang, binary code, ones and zeros.
Waleed leans heavily into this universal concept. He defines 2 as the number of pairing and polarity. He references Surah At-Dariyat, verse 49, which says, "And of all things, we created 2 mates."
Of all things, that is a very sweeping statement.
It is absolute. And Waleed interprets it as a fundamental law of physics and metaphysics. He argues that while 1 is strictly reserved for the creator, the initiator 2 is the absolute definition of creation. To be created literally means to be a compound.
Because you have the thing and then the opposite of the thing.
Or the thing and the potential of the thing. Matter and spirit, male and female, soul and self, up and down. Waleed posits that you simply cannot have a manifest universe with just a 1. The very moment the 1 decides to create, the immediate result is a 2.
So if we go back to the computer analogy, 1 is the user and 2 is the interface.
In a way, sure. It's the required binary for existence. If 1 is the start, 2 is the process. It's a tension between 2 poles that actually allows energy to flow. Without 2 poles, a battery does nothing.
Okay, I follow that. So we have the source, which is 1, and we have the raw material of creation, which is 2. But if I just have 2 sticks leaning against each other, that's not a very stable structure. If I push one, they both just fall down.
And that is exactly the engineering problem Waleed identifies here. A binary system is inherently unstable. It just oscillates back and forth. To make it functional, you need a third point.
Number 3.
Number 3. Waleed calls this the minimum system.
The minimum system.
Think about basic geometry. What is the very first shape you can make that encloses space? 2 lines just make an angle. You need 3 lines to make a triangle.
The strongest shape in engineering.
Right. Or think of a stool. A 2-legged stool falls over immediately. A 3-legged stool stands on its own. Waleed argues that 3 is the number of composition and structure. It is the exact moment the binary becomes a mechanism.
It locks the loop.
Exactly. It makes it functional. He points to Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 228. This deals with divorce and the waiting period for women, which is defined as 3 quru. These are interpreted as cycles or clean periods. Waleed asks a structural question here. Why 3? Why not 2? 2 would technically prove she isn't pregnant, biologically speaking.
But 3 confirms the cycle.
3 confirms the system is fully reset. It's a completed mechanism. Or look at Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 89, regarding breaking an oath. The expiation is you either feed 10 people or you fast 3 days.
3 days.
Waleed argues 3 is the minimum viable product for a spiritual transaction. It's the smallest possible number that creates a fully closed loop. It builds the structure.
So if I'm following the covenant mathematics properly so far, 1 is the spark, 2 is the parts, and 3 is the machine actually working.
That is the complete foundation. Identity is 1, duality is 2, structure is 3. But now that we have a working machine, we need to place it somewhere. We need to give it an environment to operate in.
Which moves us into section 2 of our outline, the physics of existence, space, energy, and time.
This is where Waleed's theory starts to feel very architectural. We start with number 4.
Number 4. Now, in a lot of traditional numerology, 4 is stability. You have the 4 corners, the square, the 4 compass directions. What is it in this matrix?
Waleed defines 4 as the anchor. It represents place, scales, or balance, what's called a meson in justice. But he goes a step further and links it specifically to a geographical coordinate, Baqa al-Quds.
Baqa, that's the ancient name for the sanctuary, right? Jerusalem.
Yes, the holy precincts, the sanctuary. Waleed argues that 4 is the number of earthly coordinates. Wherever you see a 4 in the text, you are dealing with the concept of location or setting the stage.
Is there textual evidence he uses for this location theory?
He points to Surah Fusilat, verse 10. This verse describes the creation of the earth. It says the sustenance, the foods, the geology were estimated in 4 days.
4 days.
Waleed interprets this not just as a duration of time, but as a literal structural definition. The Earth's balance, its physical parameters, is set to the frequency of 4. It is the place where we exist.
And he connects this spatial concept to justice as well.
He does, through Surah An-Nur, verse 4. Yeah. This is the very famous verse about the requirement of witnesses for accusations of adultery. How many witnesses are required?
4 witnesses.
Right. And Waleed asks, why 4? Why not 3? 3 was a system, right? Why isn't a functional system enough to establish truth?
Because the stakes are higher.
Because it's fundamentally a matter of place on earthly balance. An accusation of that magnitude disturbs the equilibrium of the society. To reestablish a balance, the mizan, you need the specific stability of the number 4. It represents the 4 corners of the foundation. You literally cannot knock down a reputation without a 4-cornered proof.
That is a really interesting way to look at it. So 4 is the stage, it's the ground we stand on, but a stage is totally empty without actors on it. Or rather, without energy. A rock is a 4, maybe, but a rock doesn't do much on its own.
Which brings us perfectly to number 5, the spark, the energy.
I found this part of the source material really cool. Waleed defines 5 as energy, spirit, which is the Ruh and divine support, or madad.
It's purely kinetic. If 4 is the static square foundation, 5 is the active force that moves through it. And Waleed draws a very direct link between the number 5 and the angelic realm. Look at Surah Al-Imran, verse 125. The believers are in the middle of a battle. They desperately need help. They are promised divine reinforcement. How many angels are sent?
5,000.
5,000. Waleed asks, why not 4,000? Why not 6,000? He argues it's specifically because angels are energy beings. They are made of light. They vibrate at the frequency of 5. When the divine wants to inject raw energy into the place, which is the battlefield, the packet comes in a frequency of 5.
There's also that mind-bending verse about the speed of angels, right? The time dilation one?
Surah Al-Maradish, verse 4. The angels and the spirit ascend to him in a day, the measure of which is 50,000 years.
50,000, so there's the 5 again.
It represents the sheer, unfathomable intensity of that spiritual kinetic energy. But here is where Waleed's matrix reading gets incredibly granular. Look at the verse number itself.
You said it's verse 4?
Exactly. The verse talking about the spirit, which is frequency 5, is located at verse 4.
So you're saying the energy of the 5 is literally moving through the place, the 4.
That is Waleed's direct reading. The verse number provides the structural context. It acts as the portal or the coordinate. And the text itself describes the force moving through it. The spirit ascends through the cosmic architecture, through the 4.
That is wild. It's literally like reading the metadata of the file. File type 5. Location 4.
Precisely. It's a highly structured coordinate system.
Okay, so we have the place, the 4, and the energy, the 5. But if I have explosive energy going off in a specific place, I need something to contain it so it doesn't just dissipate. I need a timeline.
Number 6. The container.
The creation number.
Yes. The refrain that is repeated throughout the entire Quran. Created the heavens and earth in 6 days. Waleed describes 6 as the time container or space-time.
So 6 isn't just a measure of how long it took to build, it's the actual shape of the box holding everything.
Correct. Waleed notes that the universe is continually described as having 3 distinct regions: the heavens, the earth, and what is between them. To hold these 3 regions in a stable state of ongoing existence, you need the stability of 6.
Why 6 specifically, though?
Think about it geometrically. Think of a cube. How many faces does a perfect cube have?
6 faces.
A cube is the perfect geometric container. Waleed argues that 6 is the geometric closure absolutely necessary for the universe to settle into reality. It is what allows the system, which is 3, to exist in place, which is 4, over time. It is the definitive number of stability.
So let's just recap the physics engine we've built here. 4 is the anchor or place, 5 is the energy or spirit, and 6 is the container or time. We have a working universe now.
We do. But an empty universe isn't the goal. Now we need to populate it. We need stuff. We need actual matter. And we need an end goal for that matter. This takes us to section 3, the manifested world. Numbers 7, 8, and 9.
Number 7. Now, this is the big one in general folklore. You have the 7 seas, the 7 dwarves, the 7 deadly sins. It always feels like this mystical magic number. But Waleed gives it a much heavier, almost darker definition in his matrix.
He does. He defines 7 as the fabric. It represents matter, the self, which is the nafs, and life in its absolute densest, most layered form.
The nafs. Now, for you listening who might not be entirely familiar with the Arabic term, we usually translate nafs as soul, but it's very different from ruh, which is spirit, right?
Very different. Ruh, our number 5, is the divine spark. It's pure, unadulterated energy. Nafs, the number 7, is the self. It's the ego. It's the part of you that wants food, that wants power, that feels physical pain. It is the heavy soul that is deeply attached to biology and matter.
So 7 is the frequency of being stuck in the mud, essentially.
It's the number of material density. Waleed points to the phrase 7 heavens not just as lofty, beautiful skies, but as stratified layers of material construction pressing above us. But the most telling example he gives regarding 7 is about hell. Surah Al-Hijr, verse 44.
It has 7 gates.
7 gates. Waleed interprets this purely structurally. Why 7? He argues that hell is specifically designed for the nafs, the corrupted material self. Since the self is built of 7 layers of material desire and density, the prison designed to contain it must mathematically match that exact frequency. It has 7 gates, because the prisoner itself is a 7.
That makes perfect sense within the system. You build the cage to exactly fit the dimensions of the beast.
Exactly. 7 is the number of the test. It is the raw, heavy material of existence that we are supposed to refine.
And how do we refine it? We produce something, we do work. Which brings us to number 8.
Number 8. The factory.
Waleed calls this the number of hamd, which means praise, but functionally he really describes it as production, birth, and the cosmic energy center.
Think of 8 as the ultimate output mechanism. If 7 is the dense raw material, 8 is the finished product coming right off the assembly line. Waleed points to Surah Al-Haqqah, verse 17. This verse describes the end times, the day of judgment. It says that 8 angels will bear the throne of your Lord.
8 angels bearing the throne.
Now, in Waleed's matrix, the throne isn't a giant physical chair. It's the system of cosmic management. It's the absolute control center. So, if the throne is headquarters, the 8 are the specific forces that produce or manifest the divine commands into physical reality. They are the literal production line of God's will.
He also links this 8 frequency directly to biology, doesn't he?
Yes. Surah Al-An'am, verse 143. It specifically mentions 8 mates in the context of livestock. You know, sheep, goats, camels, and cows.
Which on the surface sounds like a really random detail.
But look at the actual function of livestock in human history. Livestock represents biological production, birth, milk, meat, sustenance. It is the fundamental engine of life production for civilization. Waleed argues that 8 is simply the universal frequency of output.
So 7 is the self and matter, 8 is the production and manifestation, and that brings us to the final single digit in the dictionary. Number 9.
Do endgame. Number 9.
In our standard base 10 system, 9 is the last stop. After that, you just reset and start over with a 1 and a 0.
And that is exactly how Waleed sees it structurally. 9 represents the complete system. He calls it the din, or the circle. It signifies absolute perfection.
Now, perfection usually sounds like a very positive thing.
Not necessarily in this matrix. In Waleed's view, perfection just means completed. It means the system is fully operational and closed. It can be perfect good, or it can be perfect corruption.
Oh, right. A fully operational Death Star is still a fully operational system.
That is a perfect analogy. And Waleed finds this exact concept in the text. Surah An-Naum, verse 48. And there were in the city 9 family groups who caused corruption.
9 groups.
Waleed argues this wasn't just a random headcount of criminals. The text specifies 9 to tell you about the structural quality of their corruption. It wasn't sporadic crime. It wasn't amateur hour. It was a complete system of corruption, a frequency of 9. It was a mafia, a massive syndicate. They had entirely closed the loop on their operations. They had reached the number 9.
That is actually chilling. It implies that evil isn't just chaos or lack of order. It can be meticulously engineered. It can be a 9.
Structurally, yes. A system is a system. The math doesn't judge the morality of the outcome. The math just flags that the system is finished running its loop.
Okay, so we've walked through the entire dictionary now. 1, 2, and 3. The structure. 4, 5, and 6. The physics. 7, 8, and 9. The reality. But this is where this deep dive really earns its name. Waleed doesn't just leave these as abstract definitions. He uses them as a cipher. He starts plugging them into verses to decode the hidden structural narrative.
This brings us to section 4, the matrix in action. This is what he calls numerical symbology.
And this is where he starts doing the math with the verse numbers themselves, right?
Correct. Waleed's primary method here is triangulation. He looked at the number explicitly mentioned in the text, and he compares it directly to the number of the verse. He argues they interact to form a complete equation.
Let's look at that corruption in the city verse again, because that's a great example. Surah An-Naml, verse 48.
Okay, let's set the scene based on the dictionary. The text mentions 9 family groups.
So we have our first variable, 9, a complete system of corruption.
Now look at the metadata. Look at the verse number. It is 48.
48.
When he breaks 48 down into its components, what is it made of? A 4 and an 8.
Okay, let me check the dictionary. 4 is place, baka, balance. 8 is production, output, the factory.
So Waleed reads the equation like this. You have a complete corruption system, which is 9. Where is it located? It is in the holy place, or it affects the balance, which is 4. And what is the inevitable mathematical result of complete corruption located in the holy place?
It triggers the 8, the production.
The production of what?
Of consequence.
Of divine justice, of the throne acting upon the world.
Wow, so you're saying the verse number 48 basically spoils the ending of the story. It mathematically says if you do 9 and a 4, you get an 8.
Exactly. Corruption 9 in the sanctuary 4 triggers the production of punishment 8. The numbers tell the entire structural story behind the actual narrative text.
That is, I mean, even if you are totally skeptical of numerology, the internal consistency of that is really impressive. Let's try another one from his examples, the hell verse.
Case study 2, Surah Al-Hijr, verse 44. It has 7 gates.
We already established that 7 is the frequency of the material self, the dense nafs.
Right. So the text itself gives us the target, the self, 7. Now look at the verse number, 44.
4 and 4.
Double 4. Waleed interprets this as absolute justice or absolute balance. Remember, 4 is the mizan, the cosmic scales.
So hell isn't just a chaotic pit of fire.
According to the parameters of the matrix, no. It is a place of rigorous mathematical balance, 4 plus 4. And it is designed specifically for the corrupted material self, the 7.
It totally reframes the whole concept of punishment. It's not just torture, it's a correction. It's a structural rebalancing of the equation.
It directly links the punishment to the location of judgment, which is Baka, the 4. It's a strict mechanism of the place. The verse number 44 confirms the architectural integrity of the punishment described in the text.
Okay, we absolutely have to do the big one now. The number that people have been endlessly obsessing over since the 1970s. The number 19.
The ultimate lock. Surah Al-Mudathir, verse 30. Over it are 19.
People have tried to find this specific number hidden in word counts, letter counts, gematria, everything. But how does Waleed read it simply as a structural number?
He goes right back to the foundational components. What mathematically makes up 19?
It's a 1 and a 9.
Right. 1 is the beginning, the source, the 1. 9 is the end, the complete system, the circle.
So it's the alpha and the omega combined.
Waleed describes 19 as the lock code of hell, which is the context of that specific verse. Why is it 19? Because it connects the creator, the 1, directly to the complete system, the 9.
It's a closed circuit.
Exactly. If a system is locked by the 1, the ultimate authority, and is fully complete, a 9, it is fundamentally impenetrable. You cannot escape it. You cannot hack it. There's literally no zero space to slip through. It is the perfect absolute seal.
That makes the 19 angels guarding it sound way less like a physical security team and much more like a digital firewall.
It is the absolute encryption key of the universe's justice system. It is impenetrable precisely because it represents the totality of God's authority, 1, over the totality of the system, 9.
That is heavy stuff. It really does feel like looking at the underlying code. But we've mostly been dealing with single digits or very simple combinations so far. The text has much bigger numbers, 12, 40, 70. Do these follow the same rules?
They do. And this brings us to section 5, advanced calculations. Waleed treats these larger numbers as multipliers or compounds.
Let's take 12. It's a massive number in human history. The 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 disciples, the 12 months in a year.
Waleed breaks 12 down mathematically as 3 times 4.
Okay, let's trace that. 3 is structure or system. 4 is place or earth.
So 12 represents organizing a system. 3 within a physical place. 4. Waleed terms it administrative division.
That lines up perfectly. The 12 tribes were literally a way to organize the system of people on the physical land.
Exactly. Or look at the 12 springs mentioned in the story of Moses. It was a highly structured way to distribute the water, the resource system, to the people in that specific place. Or the 12 leaders, the Naqib. It is the perfect number for governance because it takes the abstract system, the 3, and firmly anchors it to the reality of the place, the 4.
It's the number of bureaucracy. but, in a good functional way.
In a highly functional, required way. It's exactly how you manage a population in physical space.
What about 40? This is the one that has always confused me. Why does everything in ancient texts take 40 days or 40 years? The rain, the fasting, the wandering?
The structural math is 4 times 10.
4 is place and balance. What does the 10 do?
Waleed treats 10, and multiples of 10, as an intensifier or a complete unit of scale. So 40 is place multiplied by intensity. Waleed defines 40 as maturity and soaking.
Soaking, like absorbing something.
It means reaching full, permanent stability in a place. Think about the 40 years of wandering, the T, for the children of Israel. Waleed argues this wasn't just a random punishment duration pulled out of thin air. It was a specific place-time lock, 4 times 10.
They had to soak in the desert.
They had to stay in that place, the 4, until the soaking was entirely complete, until the old generation with the slave mentality had completely died out and a new, hardened generation rose up.
It mathematically takes a frequency of 40 to reach a state of permanent maturity.
That's why life begins at 40, as they say. You've finally soaked into your own identity.
You have reached your place of stability. That is the core argument, yes.
And finally, let's go to the heavy hitter, number 70.
7 times 10.
7 is matter, self-density. 10 is intensity.
So 70 is material density absolutely maxed out. It represents the ultimate limit of material testing or material burden.
Is there an example of this heaviness in the text? Moses specifically chose 70 men for the encounter with God. Waleed calls them the material elite. They represented the absolute peak of what the heavy material tribe could offer. But the much darker side of 70 is found in the description of hell again. The text mentions a chain that is 70 cubits long.
70 cubits?
Why exactly 70? Waleed says it directly represents absolute material confinement. You are wrapped in the dense ego of the number 7, multiplied to its absolute maximum capacity by the 10. It is the ultimate restriction of the self.
It's the straitjacket of the soul.
That is a terrifyingly accurate way to put it, yes.
So, we've been at this for a while now. We've taken the car entirely apart and looked at every piece of the engine. We've seen the pistons, which are 1, 2, and 3. We've seen the fuel injection, the 5, the chassis, the 4, and the 6. And we've seen how it drives. What is the ultimate takeaway here?
We're at the outro now, the algorithm of the universe.
It really does profoundly change how you look at the book. If you buy into Waleed's theory, you stop reading the numbers as amounts. You completely stop thinking, oh, that's just a lot of angels.
Right. You start seeing the numbers as vital adjectives, as specific coordinates. They tell you the hidden quality of the event. If you see a 5, you immediately know it's a high-energy situation. If you see a 4, you know it's fundamentally about the location or justice. If you see a 9, you know it's a done deal.
It turns the ancient text into a literal blueprint, a program.
Wayne calls it covenant mathematics.
Yeah.
Riyadiyat Mythikia. He implies that this numerical structure is the actual covenant, the deal between the creator and the reality itself. The math is the binding signature on the contract of existence.
And here is the final thought I really want to leave you listening with today. And honestly, this is the part that keeps me up at night after reading this.
Go on.
If the holy text, the manual of existence, is programmed with these incredibly specific frequencies, and if we are currently living in the physical world described by that exact manual,
then the math should theoretically apply to us too.
Exactly. Does that imply that the random events of our own lives are actually part of the same matrix? Your birthday, your street address, the exact time you woke up this morning?
It is the lingering, massive question.
Are these just random numbers we encounter? Or are they coordinates? Like, if you live at house number 44, are you living in a place of absolute balance? If you have exactly 3 kids, have you created a minimum system for your family?
If Waleed is right, and the entire universe is built strictly on these structural frequencies, then nothing is truly random. Every single number in your life might be telling you about the quality of your existence if you only knew how to read the dictionary.
Are we just living inside a code we haven't cracked yet? Something for you to deeply think about the next time you look at a clock or check your bank balance. You might literally be looking at the source can of your own reality.
Indeed.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. This was a really heavy one, but I think we broke the code pretty well.
It was a pleasure to unpack it.
We'll see you in the next deep dive. Keep decoding.
Goodbye.